By the year 1941, Japan began to expand into Southeast Asia, and this meant there was threat to the Indian territories. The British brought Indian people to support the war against Japan, etc. In the spring of 1942, the Prime Minister Winston Churchill was made to send Sir Stanford Cripps, one of his ministers, to India to try and come to a compromise with Gandhi and the Congress.
But these talks did not succeed. But the Congress wanted that Viceroy should appoint an Indian as a defense member of his executive council.
Once the Cripps mission failed, Mahatma Gandhi decided to launch his third major movement against the British rule, Quit India movement. In August 1942, the Quit India movement began. Even though Gandhi was jailed, the younger activists took to strikes and revolutions across the country. The socialist members like Jai Prakash Narayan were very active in the revolution. In the districts like Satara in the west and Medinipur in the east, independent governments were announced. At this point of time, another country, the Communist Party of India, made a decision to support the British in the war. They were alarmed at the attack of Nazis against the Soviet Union. Understanding the threat of the war at the level of the world, they called it a people's war. However, Gandhiji thought India would be able to handle Japan on its own after the British leaves India. But the victories of Japan against Americans and Europeans created a strong impression on the people of India. In the very first place, it was felt that the European colonialist would get defeated very soon. In addition, Japan was an Asian country and could stand against the European powers.
At this point, the Indians felt that they could also fight the British. As a result, the myth of racist superiority of the British was destroyed.
Subhash Chandra Bose, another great leader, found the opportunity that was made available by the issues of the British. He said that independence was of extreme importance and that India should take help of Japan to fight British. Subhash Chandra Bose travelled to Germany secretly and then to Japan and raised an army of Indian soldiers in the year 1942.
But students, who do you think these soldiers were?
The soldiers were the men in the British Army who had been captured by the Japanese when British was defeated in Burma and Malaya. They were the prisoners. Subhash Chandra Bose recruited them in the army, which he called as Indian National Army. Many Indians joined the army later, including women. But Gandhi did not agree with the ideas of Bose and he thought that Japan could not free India. But Subhash Chandra Bose believed in it and led an army of Indian soldiers to fight along with the Imperial Army of Japan against the British for nearly 3 years.
It was a challenging time. There was a point when it seemed like the Allied powers were losing the war.
But as we have learnt earlier, the Russians defeated the Nazi forces in Stalingrad. The Allies, however, regained power and won the Second World War. The Indian National Army of Subhash Chandra Bose was defeated by the British. After this, there continues to be a mystery of Subhash Chandra Bose, whether he disappeared or died. In June 1944, when the war began to end, Gandhiji was released from the prison. And it was again time for negotiations on the issue of independence for India.
Students, now that we have seen the various organizations and the various situations that paved the way for the independence of the country, let us now learn about the people's movements that took place around the country. Students, the period between 1946 and 1948 is characterized by upsurge by people. Let us look at it in detail. As we have seen, the INA soldiers were jailed. The British then decided to punish the soldiers. the trials for the soldiers began to court-martial them, as the British viewed them as traitors to the army, and so they decided to hang them till death as punishment. Students, court-martial is a military court where action is taken on the members of the armed forces for committing serious crimes or for breaching the martial law. As the trials of the soldiers took place, a lot of unrest began in different parts of India. We have to understand here that amidst all this unrest, the issues of Hindu-Muslim identity and being separated became insignificant. This is clearly evident from the fact that many of the soldiers who were being punished for treason were Muslims. And irrespective of religion of the soldiers, people expressed their anger and sympathy. Students, the scenario after the war ended was completely shocking. There were food shortages everywhere. Food was rationed, high prices, black marketing, and so on. The workers were paid low wages. The railway, postal, and other government employees decided to go on a country-level strike to protest against the prices.
In such a scenario, on the 18th of February 1946, the ratings or the guards of the Royal Indian Navy went on a hunger strike protesting against the bad food and behavior of the British officers in Bombay Harbour. This strike, popularly known as the Royal Indian Navy Mutiny, slowly spread to other naval men in Bombay and gradually to all naval bases in India. The angered men put up the tricolour, crescent and hammer and sickle flags on the mast of the ship. 78 ships, 20 shore establishments and 20,000 ratings participated in the strike. Hundreds of students, both Hindus and Muslims, protested on the streets of Bombay and supported them. They clashed with the police and the army. In addition, a naval center strike committee came into being with M.S. Khan as its head.
The demands of the committee included better food, equal pay for the white and Indian sailors, release of the INA soldiers and other political prisoners, and withdrawal of Indian troops from Indonesia.
On February 22, 1946, 3 lakh mill workers put down their tools and fought for 2 days on the streets of Bombay with the police and the army.
Students, thus we can see that there were a lot of protests and strikes in the year 1946 in factories and mills in different parts of the country. The CPI and the socialist parties were active participants in the movements. The rural India also was agitated. During this time, an agitation took place in Bengal by small and poor peasants who took the land of the big landowners for cultivation. The small and poor peasants demanded for increase of share of harvest to 2 portions out of 3 instead of half or less of harvest given to them. This was called the Tebaga movement, which was led by the provincial Kisan Sabha.
The Communist Party led a mass movement in Hyderabad with the farmers of the Telangana region. They opposed the large landowners and demanded the writing off of the debts of farmers, elimination of bonded labor, and distribution of land to those who till it.
The peasants used arms to fight against the rulers and the armies. Nearly 3,000 villages were part of the movement. There was another armed revolt of peasants which took place in Travancore in Punapra Vailar.